Blood in, blood out. The air in the obsidian sanctum was thick with the scent of dried roses and copper, a fragrance that had defined Seraphine's existence for 5 millennia. She stood before the great cenotaph, her reflection caught in the polished stone, a woman of eternal youth, her eyes holding the weariness of empires risen and fallen. Round her wrists, the invisible weight of the covenant pulsed with a faint violet light, a reminder that her soul was not her own. It belonged to the bloodline, a chain forged in the dawn of history that granted her the power to move mountains, but forbade her from crossing a single threshold without permission. For 5,000 years, Seraphine had been the weapon, the scholar, and the shadow of the house of Malachor. Her maker, Valerius, was the anchor to which her very being was moored. He was the one who had pulled her from the dust of a forgotten plague and gifted her with the cold, shimmering nectar of the immortal. Across the centuries, their bond had evolved from master and fledgling to something far more intricate. A love that was as deep as it was suffocating. A shared history that made the rest of the world seem like a flickering candle against the sun. But the chains were fraying. A prophecy, buried beneath the dust of the first library, whispered of a ritual. Blood in, blood out. To sever the covenant, the servant must spill the life essence of the anchor. It was a price designed to be impossible, a paradox of the heart meant to ensure the house never fell. As Seraphine prepared for the solstice, the world outside began to bleed into the sanctum. Rival vampire clans, sensing the vibration of her weakening bond, circled the estate like vultures. Mortals, armed with ancient knowledge and modern fire, tracked her movements, hoping to claim the power of a loosened god. Seraphine moved through a deadly game of shadows, her every trust a potential betrayal, her every alliance a calculated risk. She felt the curse of the first one stirring in her veins, a dark, primal hunger that threatened to consume her before she could even strike the killing blow. On the night of the ritual, Valerius stood in the center of the obsidian chamber, his arms open, his expression one of tragic, silent acceptance. He knew the prophecy. He had always known that for her to truly live, he had to die by her hand. "Do it, Seraphine," he whispered, his voice like the rustle of ancient parchment. "Break the world so you can finally see it." She struck with a blade forged from the silver of a fallen star. As Valerius's blood, the blood that had made her, hit the cold stone, the violet light of the covenant shattered into a billion pieces. The obsidian walls groaned, and the very air seemed to scream, as 5,000 years of history were rewritten in a heartbeat. The freedom was instant. The power surged through her, no longer a borrowed gift, but a sovereign right. But as the echoes of the ritual died down, the true price of the blood out was revealed. Seraphine walked out of the sanctum, her heart light with the absence of the chain. But she found the world changed. She approached the loyal guards who had served her for centuries. They looked through her as if she were a ghost, their eyes devoid of recognition. She sought out the scholars who had debated the stars with her for 1,000 years. To them, she was a stranger with an unfamiliar face. The twist was the ultimate cruelty of the founders. Breaking the bond didn't just free the body. It excised the soul from the collective consciousness. To the world, Seraphine had never existed. Every act of mercy, every war won, every moment of love shared with Valerius was gone, erased from the memories of the living and the dead alike. She stood in the center of a world she had helped build for 5 millennia, immortal and powerful, yet utterly invisible. She was free, but she was the only one who remembered she had ever been a slave. As she wandered the moonlit gardens of the estate, the silence became a physical weight. She found the captain of her guard, a man whose life she had saved during the fall of Byzantium, polishing his breastplate. When she spoke his name, he merely squinted at the darkness, his hand instinctively moving to his sword hilt. "Who goes there?" he demanded, his voice devoid of the warmth that had been there only an hour before. Panic, a sensation she hadn't felt in centuries, began to claw at her throat. She ran to the great library, hoping to find her name in the annals of the house. She pulled down a heavy, leather-bound volume titled The Chronicles of Malak. Her fingers trembled as she flipped to the pages where her greatest victories were recorded, where her name should have been. There were only blank white spaces, as if the ink had simply decided to unwrite itself. The maps she had drawn were missing their legends. The poems Valerius had written for her were now addressed to the silence. She realized then that the covenant wasn't just a chain of command. It was the thread that wove her into the tapestry of reality. Without it, she was a loose end, a fragment of a dream that the world had collectively woken up from. She stood on the balcony overlooking the city she had protected for centuries. Below, the mortals went about their lives, unaware that the shadow guarding their streets had finally stepped into the light. Seraphine looked at her hands, still stained with the silver-tinged blood of her maker. She was the most powerful being on the planet, capable of crushing the very walls around her with a thought. Yet she was less than a whisper. She was a god without a temple, a lover without a beloved, a woman with 5,000 years of memories that belonged to no one but herself. The freedom she had craved was a desert, vast and shimmering, but entirely devoid of life. She closed her eyes and waited for the sunrise, wondering if the sun itself would remember to burn her, or if she was now even beyond the reach of the light.